Oh well, Apple recently announced their iPad Pro lineup and the newer iPad Air lineup. So the iPad Air lineup is interesting though this year. It still starts at $599 for the base iPad Air model, and there are only 3 upgrades in the 11-inch model. One is the chipset that is powered by the M2 processor, and the second thing is actually it has 128GB base model. Thank God they realized that 64GB isn't enough. And the third thing, they moved the cameras, the selfie cameras, from the portrait orientation to the landscape orientation. That's it. That's all it. So I think everything is justified. But if you look at the bigger model, they are calling it a 13-inch model, that has much better body screen-to-body ratio. It's about 86.1% over the 11-inch model. That means the bezels are actually much more thinner in comparison. And this is literally based on the 2020 iPad Pro. Because if you look at the dimensions between these two devices, well, they are almost similar. This one still has the same IPS LCD panel as the 2020 iPad Pro, and it also still has the 600 nits of peak brightness. The 11-inch model though has only 500 nits of peak brightness. Now, the other thing that you should know is that there are 256GB storage, 512, and a terabyte option as well for the Air models. But there is no promotion in the display technology yet. And on top of that, this is the most quirkiest thing that you should know. Even having the same amount of connector pins at the back, the iPad Air, the recent ones, still don't support the newer Magic Keyboard that is only made for the pros, for no reason. These models will still work with the older Magic Keyboard, and that's probably it. The Pro models, however, got quite a lot of upgrades. But before that, let me tell you about the 10th Gen iPad. That only got one downgrade, and that's a good thing. That's the price. It starts at $349 only. It doesn't even get a newer chipset. It's still powered by A14 Bionic. But then comes the iPad Pros. They are powered by M4 processor. Now, this is interesting that they put the most high-end, just standard processor inside an iPad first, then a MacBook. But then again, it's the same story as the iPad Pro M1 that I'm currently dealing with. The thing is, this M4 processor is much faster than the M1 chipset. It's literally 2 times faster than the M2 chipset inside the last iPad Pro. Plus, this chipset is so efficient, being that much powerful, that they're claiming that it uses only half the power of the M2 to perform similarly. And that's why they could even reduce this whole thickness to only 5.1 mm for the iPad Pro 13-inch model. This is incredibly thin. And that also makes these two Pro models much more lighter compared to last year's models. This is a small little comparison, like 682 grams of the last year's model is now only 579 grams. That's a huge reduction for sure. And for heat dissipation, they even used copper materials inside the Apple logo. This is really interesting though. And that's not the only interesting thing. The display is actually stacked OLED panels, that one OLED panel over another, which drastically increases the brightness. In this case, it's 1000 nits of manual brightness and 1600 nits of peak HDR brightness. This is incredible. Now, the sizes are similar, 13-inch and 11-inch, just like last year's models, but the screen-to-body ratio is much more higher now. For example, the 13-inch model is having 86.9% screen-to-body ratio compared to 85.4%. So that's a good increase, but not too much though. This year, they are also introducing the nano texture display glass option, but that's only restricted to 1TB and 2TB models for no reasons. Even though it still does have 2 other models like 256GB base model and a 512GB extra option, but you're not going to be able to get this feature. Now the RAM though, for the 1TB and 2TB is going to be 16GB, but for the others, it will still be 8GB. But one really quirky thing that I saw is that they removed the beastliness of the camera bump somehow with the newer design, and they also removed one camera. But yes, there is no ultra-wide-angle camera anymore. The selfie camera and the Face ID all has moved to the landscape orientation, even though it got newer accessories like the newer Apple Pencil Pro and a newer Magic Keyboard which has metal build, a different hinge, new function row, bigger trackpad, but it doesn't extend the battery life, and it doesn't even offer more speakers or more USB-C ports, nothing extra. But the Apple Pencil Pro is something better because it does have now haptic engine inside. So sometimes or some cases, so like when you're drawing something or choosing the layers, by squeezing the Apple Pencil, you don't have to do anything more than that because it's having a pressure sensitive option inside the Apple Pencil. and also a gyroscope. So when you rotate the Apple Pencil, the whole drawing experience will also change according to that. So yes, it does have these newer features that makes this Apple Pencil a much better of an Apple Pencil. It's really a pro Apple Pencil, I would say. But the point is, the iPad Pros of their own cost a lot more. The iPad Air starts at $599 with 128GB storage. The iPad Air 13-inch starts at $799 with 128GB base storage. But these two 256GB models, the iPad Pros, starts at $999 for the 11-inch model and $1299 for the 13-inch model. Why that costly? I mean, you can literally buy a good MacBook with a keyboard, trackpad, and a much better operating system with more USB-C ports by spending much less than the iPad Pro setup with the Magic Keyboard and the newer pencil and everything. And that is the only reason why I'm kind of disappointed. If you want to get the 13-inch model, but you want to have the nano texture, you have to buy the 1TB model. The 1TB model cost $1,899 and the 2TB model cost $2,299. That the nano texture glass cost $100 more on top of that. And then if you want to get the cellular model, then you have to spend $200 more. What was Apple thinking with an operating system like that? I'm currently using it and I know it's a work device to me, but it's still not worth it. Unless you have specific requirement of an iPad with that kind of technologies or storages, I don't think that iPad is worth it, because you can get a much better MacBook, much more powerful operating system, much better capable device at an even much cheaper price tag. But if you have the money to spend on it, but you're deciding between a Mac or this iPad Pro, I would tell you to wait just a bit more till the WW event so that you get an idea what the next iPad OS will be able to offer on this specific hardware. Otherwise, it's going to be the same story as me buying the iPad Pro M1 to do computer stuffs. And yes, if you want, you can get some crazy cool wallpapers up on my website. A link down below. Until the next one, bye and take care.